It is not difficult for Chinese to learn Korean. These are the reasons. Why learn Korean? When it comes to learning a language, I have to say, not all languages are equally difficult to different people. Learning Korean language is the same. There are many factors that make Korean worth learning. First of all, it is a wonderful and interesting language. If you are a fan of Korean dramas, then you can understand the dialogue without subtitles and watch them directly. If you like K-pop, then you can understand Korean lyrics and you can sing with your favorite singer. Secondly, if you are going to travel or live in Korea, then this is undoubtedly a new language worth learning for you. If it is a language related to your family history or university degree, perhaps learning Korean may even be a requirement for your work. Korean is worth learning because it allows you to broaden your horizons. Chinese characters and Korean characters. It is not difficult for Chinese to learn Korean. Many people who learn Korean say that Korean is much easier than English. In fact, among foreigners who learn Korean, Chinese and Japanese learn the fastest and best. There are two reasons. First, there are 70% Chinese words in Korean words, so it is easy for us Chinese to recite words and listen to them. The Chinese characters in Korean imitate the pronunciation of Chinese in ancient times. These sounds always have similarities with modern Chinese, and they are easier to guess after familiarizing themselves with the rules. Speaking Korean often seems to be talking to our ancestors. For example, if we have learned Korea, the Korean language is Hanguk, and the Korean language of middle is Jungun, then you can guess that Junguk means China. Chinese pronunciation and Korean pronunciation. Many beginners have asked whether the pronunciation of Chinese words in Korean corresponds to the pronunciation of modern Chinese. In other words, does a certain sound in Chinese necessarily correspond to a certain sound in Korean? This rule exists, but it is not easy to remember, and there is no need to memorize this rule. As long as we pay attention to the corresponding Chinese characters when memorizing words, the rules will be almost mastered after dozens of Chinese characters and words are memorized. If you have memorized hundreds of Chinese characters, then when you hear the Chinese characters you haven't learned, think of the ones you have learned, and you can generally guess them based on the context. So even if there are words you have not learned in the words spoken by Koreans, you can easily understand them if they are Chinese words. When speaking Korean, many people in a hurry will compile a Chinese character word that they have never learned based on the Chinese characters they have already memorized, and it is often correct in many cases. For example, like the situation above, if you already know that the Korean for Korea is Hanguk, and the Korean for middle is Jungun, then you can try to say Junguk, even if you haven't learned the word China. As a result, most of the time our guesses are correct. In addition to Chinese words, there are many English words in Korean, which account for more than 10% of Korean vocabulary. The pronunciation of these words is very similar to English. There are also some corresponding rules for how a certain sound in English is pronounced in Korean, and it is not necessary to memorize the rules specifically, and you can quickly master it in the learning process. Chinese and Korean cultures are similar. The second reason why Chinese are easy to learn Korean well is that China and South Korea have very similar cultures and values, and people's thinking styles are very similar. Everyone knows that to learn a foreign language is to learn the culture of this country. South Korea has been deeply influenced by Chinese culture, especially Confucian culture, so it is easy for Chinese people to understand and feel very kind when they come into contact with South Korea. At the same time, Korea has been influenced by many Western cultures in modern times. Coupled with its extremely humane national characteristics, Korean culture makes us Chinese feel both familiar and novel. Korean is a phonetic language. Korean is a pinyin script, which is exactly the same in reading and writing. Each word in Korean is composed of consonant plus vowel or consonant plus vowel plus radio. Consonants and vowels are like initials and vowels in Chinese pinyin. When learning Korean, as long as you memorize 40 letters, you will be able to write the word when you hear the pronunciation of a word. Even if you see an unlearned word, you can read the pronunciation accurately, unlike English, while remembering spelling. Also need to remember pronunciation. Korean is a character invented by the leader of King Sejong during the Lee dynasty in the 15th century. Koreans have always used Chinese characters until then. The original intention of King Sejong was to invent a relatively easy character to reduce the illiteracy rate in Korea. Therefore, Korean as a literacy text can be written as long as you can speak it, and it is much easier to learn than other languages. Respect words in Korean language. There is a distinction between honorific and non-honor in Korean. Koreans speak honorifics to people they respect, and do not speak honorifics to those who are relatively close to their peers. This may be the biggest difficulty in learning Korean at the beginner level, but they will be able to master honorifics freely after reaching the intermediate level. How to use it. Poor use of honorific language does not affect the expression of meaning. If you do not master honorific language well, you can fully explain when talking with Koreans. Koreans generally do not account for foreigners, so there is no need to use honorific language badly. I dare not open my mouth. Korean learning experience. It is not difficult for Chinese to learn Korean. In conclusion, how to learn Korean. The most difficult stage of Korean learning is the elementary stage, because the elementary level is to learn the sentence structure of Korean and all the tense changes and honorifics. This is exactly the part that is most different from Chinese. At first contact with a new language family, many people will feel uncomfortable. After learning these contents, the intermediate level is mainly to learn the use of some sentence patterns and expand the number of words, but it is much easier. Because Korean words are easy to memorize, many people feel like they are traveling at an intermediate level. So the most important thing to learn Korean is not to be intimidated by the difficulties at the beginning. In fact, you have tasted all the difficulties at the beginning. It is a pity to stop at this time.